What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today I want to take a look at Garchomp for Series 2, believe it or not, because, Garchomp seems to have, pretty much fallen off. Yes and no, because it actually still can do really, really well just because of that ground typing and that ground coverage and also that speed tier, right? So I was honestly looking at Garchomp for quite a while, and, I was even looking at the Orlando results. And first of all, there was one Garchomp that top cut, but even the ones that didn't, those players were 7-3 with those Garchomp teams, and 7-3 is actually a very, very impressive record with within a regional, right? So if you just consider like some of the stuff that Garchomp can do well against, think about this. Like if you put Garchomp with the clear amulet, I think you can already put pressure on the Arcanine. Stuff like Gholdengo, the King Gambits, right? And then of course you can also put pressure on Iron Hands, right? Because the ground coverage is just so devastating against all of these physical attackers. And again, with the clear amulet, the Arcanine can't really intimidate it. And if you're Terrafire Garchomp, then you can't even Will-O-Wisp it either, right? So there's the benefit of that. And then, the Great Tusk has been the preferred option over Garchomp. But, Great Tusk, like if you just look at it, yeah, it's a very good Pokemon, of course. It does a lot of damage, has a lot of HP, it has pretty good defense. This speed tier can be a little bit troubling sometimes, and as well as the special defense. And this fighting typing sometimes is not so great, especially when you're going up against like, the Indeedee Armor stuff, the Roaring Moon acrobatic stuff, the psychic coverage, or even the fairy coverage from the Rising Hatterene teams. So because of that, I think, sometimes the Great Tusk can be a little bit troublesome to use, but it's still very, very good. And if you just compare this with something like Garchomp, side by side, that's Gengar, oops, right here. So if you just compare these side by side, right? So, of course, a lot more HP, actually not even that much more HP, right? 7 more base stats, and then 131 attack versus Garchomp's 130 attack, very, very, almost negligible difference, 1 more attack, all right? 95 defense versus 131 defense. Okay, this is where Great Tusk can outclass the Garchomp, of course. 40 more extra base stats is very impressive, but then look at the special defense, 53 versus Garchomp's 85. So basically a 30 plus difference there, right? And then, the speed versus Garchomp's speed. So Garchomp can be, the preferred factor, right? And, if you also consider something else that's running around, Sandy Shocks. Okay, look at Sandy Shocks' speed. Base 101, electric ground, Garchomp 102. So Garchomp already technically outspeeds Sandy Shocks. So you can put pressure on the Sandy Shocks teams that are rising a little bit. But in terms of like other things, yeah, Garchomp does really well just because of the coverage it gets and even the typing. Okay, and if you take a look at some Orlando regional teams, which we're going to do now, you'll see that there's a common theme and a common blueprint that these players are following. All right, so now let's just go ahead and take a look at those teams. Okay, so this is Ian McLaughlin's team. So this is the only Garchomp team that top cut the Orlando regionals. Looking back on it, and again, it's a Tailwind user, in other words, Drifloon, plus Garchomp and Gholdengo. Okay, so think about like Talonflame in the slot. Okay, and then you have Tyranitar, which is expected. Assault Vest Terraflying Tyranitar is still very, very strong right now. And then you put that alongside with like Sandvale Garchomp. Okay, pretty cool. And then you already have Lycanroc and Indeedee. So these are the 2 slots that make things interesting a little bit. But if you look at the other Garchomp teams, then you can kind of see what you can do with these 2 slots. Not that these 2 Pokemon are bad, of course, but I think there's other ways that you can support the Garchomp core with something like this. So if you take a look at Corey's team here, so there's a Steel type, again, sort of like the Gholdengo slot, and then here's a strong Fairy like Fluttermane, and then here's Talonflame once again, all right? So Talonflame, Garchomp, and then some strong Steel type, and then a strong Fairy. Then Hydreigon, of course, you can Earthquake next to this thing. So you have 2 targets that you can Earthquake next to just because of the ability or the typing. And then I guess Iron Hands just round things out. It gives you something to play in Trick Room because you have the Trick Room on the Fluttermane. Alright, so something like this can work really, really well. And then if you look at this kind of team, imagine, again, like here's Talonflame, here's Garchomp and Tyranitar, and then you have the bundle Amoonguss core along with some strong Fairy once again with the Fluttermane. And sometimes if you just put like Great Tusk here, and then it's like, oh, okay, like this also kind of makes sense. Like you have to kind of put Great Tusk and Garchomp side by side and see which one is like kind of better for your team, depending on the circumstance. But again, I'm just showing you like Garchomp can do well here. And then if you look at another kind of team, from Jag Samrat, which we've had on the channel before back in Sword and Shield as a special guest. He's also following a similar kind of idea with like Talonflame, Strong Steel type Gholdengo again, along with Garchomp, Assault Vest Garchomp might have had. Yeah, if you look at some of these Garchomp sets, like first of all, this one was Scarf, so that was interesting. Tantrum, Rock Slide, Dragon Claw, Earthquake. This one was Clear Amulet to prevent from Intimidate spam from the Arcanine stuff, which makes a lot of sense. But then if you look over here, this is an Assault Vest Garchomp here with Earthquake, Stomping Tantrum, so single target ground move, Dragon Claw, and Rock Slide. And then Jag over here, more or less the same idea, with 2 ground moves, 1 single target, 1 spread move, and then Rock Slide, and then Dragon Claw. So the bulk actually helps Garchomp quite a bit, because then you can take those fairy type attacks from like a Flutter Mane, from like a Sylveon. You can take those freeze dries potentially from those iron bundles. If you just go Terra Ground. So instead of 4 times weakness, you're just just regular weakness, but then the Assault Vest can kind of help you out there a little bit. So that's the idea there. And then you have screens here, so even more bulkier. But you can see like a common theme here, right? So some Tailwind user, some Steel type, and from there you just support with either like Tyranitar or some other filler slot, right? So that being said, but now what I'm going to show you is like a potential team that you can use that can try and utilize Garchomp in Series 2. All right, so let's do some self team building now. Let's take a look. All right, so here we go, back to Garchomp here, and again we're going to follow the simple blueprint of Talonflame and then some Steel type like a Gholdengo over here, right? So this is something that was also seen pretty much in also Series 1, where you could even slap on like a Murkrow and a Hydreigon over here, right? But ideally, the Sandville Garchomp is probably going to be used here, because I do see something like Tyranitar coming on a team like this. Like the Assault Vest Tyranitar just seems so strong right now, especially with the coverage it can get, along with the Assault Vest plus the Sand Boost. Just like all these special attackers like Gholdengo, Iron Bundle, the Flutter Manes, they just don't really do that much damage to Tyranitar because of the Sand plus the Assault Vest. And the natural bulk of 100 HP and 100 special defense is actually really, really good. So Tyranitar is really, really good on something like this. And then under Talonflame, your Tyranitar, which is normally slow, all of a sudden can now become like relatively quick. So that makes a lot of sense here. And then from here, you could just do a simple core like Amoonguss plus the Iron Bundle, right? And, just something very standard, very consistent. You still have this Fire Water Grass core with Talonflame Amoonguss Bundle. You have Tailwind support, of course, with the Talonflame. You have the Icy Wind, furthermore speed control with the bundle. And then in the Trick Room matchups, you have like an Amoonguss and a Tyranitar, for example, right? So it's actually relatively okay. And then if you put on a Clear Amulet on this Garchomp, who are you really intimidating on this team? Pretty much just the Tyranitar, right? But then ideally, Tyranitar is something that just comes in and out, depending on, weather situations, or, if you switch out to Tyranitar, it's not a big deal, right? But I really want the Garchomp to stay in, right? So that's the idea here. And then ideally also with like Terra Flying, you can also Earthquake next to Tyranitar, for example. So 2 potential targets that you can Earthquake to. Gholdengo and Iron Bundle, they're gonna have Protect. The Amoonguss will have, again, for Trick Room matchups, especially with like this Derek Tark typing over here, which makes a lot of sense. So if I were to just like finish off the team relatively quickly here, I would do something like Earthquake. I would do Rock Slide, and then I can do Swords Dance, for example, and then Protect, right? So with the Swords Dance, and then even this one like could be either to ground or even like Terra Fire. So this way you don't just get absolutely annihilated by those fairy types. But if you want like Terra Ground for extra damage, you can. But I think having at least a potential setup here, it makes a lot of sense. If you have the Life Orb on the Gholdengo here, you can do that. You can also put the Life Orb on the Garchomp, but because there's so much Arcanine running around, I think I kind of want to go with the Clear Amulet here, and just go for like a bulky Swords Dance set. Okay, and then with Talonflame here, just basically the whatchamacallit, the Covert Cloak, all right, and then Terra Ghost. So this way, like when you go into those Dragonite E-Speed matchups, you just don't get smacked, and then you don't get faked out also, that kind of thing. With Brave, you can also do like Flare Blitz over here, or Brave Bird and then Taunt, and then Will-O-Wisp, something like this, okay? The Gholdengo, again with Life Orb, very simple, just make it rain, Shadow Ball, Nasty Plot, and then Protect. By the way, I do want to add, if you also want like fairy coverage on this team, you could even like swap out the Tyranitar and put in like Sylveon over here, because Sylveon and Tailwind on with Garchomp and Gholdengo, Dragon Fairy Steel Core is actually very, very strong. And then you could put like Terra Water Sylveon for Terra Blast, and then just switch out the bundle for Tyranitar, for example, right? So something like this, where you have the Sylveon over here with Pixelate, Terra Water. Okay, where are you, Terra Water? And then you would just do like, Hyper Voice, Terra Blast, which is Terra Water, and then you don't even need Shadow Ball. You could just do like Yawn and Protect. Something like this makes a lot of sense in terms of like coverage. Okay, and then the bundle, you can even swap this out for Tyranitar, for example. But if you don't want to do that, then you can just go simply for like the Assault Vest Tyranitar stuff. Okay, with the Terra Flying option, which is actually really strong right now. So over here, again, speaking of Tyranitar, so something like Rock Slide, then you could have either Assurance or Crunch. Crunch is okay, but if you like Assurance, definitely go for Assurance. Terra Blast, all right, for the flying option. That's why I didn't put Brave Bird here. I put Flare Blitz instead, so a little bit more coverage. I don't need flying type here and flying type here. And then over here, Low Kick. For like heavy hitting Dondozo matchups that go for Terra Steel, or just like other steel types in general. Then the Mungus here with like Regenerator, of course. Something like Mental Herb so you don't get taunted. Rage Powder, Spore, Clear Smog, and Pollen Puff. Something like this, right? Which is pretty good, pretty okay. All right, and then the Iron Bundle, of course, will have a Focus Sash here, and then just pretty much just Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, Icy Wind, and Protect. You can go Terra Water here just for a little bit of resistance, or even like Terra Grass. So this way you don't take electric damage, you don't take grass, super effective grass damage. You can resist all of that. You can bypass a Mungus, for example, so you don't get spored. That kind of nonsense. Terra Grass bundle does wonders here. And I believe this is it. Yeah, so this is like some soft team building here. I could do some like quick EV spreads here, but ideally what I'm thinking is something like Tyranitar. I'll show like at least Tyranitar Garchomp here, or I'll probably do the whole team. But like for Garchomp, I think you can just go like a slower Adamant build with just like, you can even go like 156. But ideally what I was aiming for is something like this with 150 speed, just to outspeed like Timid Gholdengos, for example. And then Icy Wind Tailwind just kind of supports Garchomp in general. But then something like this is okay. You could even go right here to the third EV bump, and then just put like points here in like defense and special defense like this, and then a little bit more into the HP, something like this, right? Where the Garchomp is somewhat, or just a little bit more aggressive, but like Adamant, slower, okay, harder hitting. But if you want a little bit more bulk, you can just go to 187 and then just put a little bit more HP like this, okay, as an example, right? But if you prefer a little bit more damage on your Garchomp, then definitely consider it. Then I would just drop it like this, and then just go back to the third EV bump like this. All right, then Tyranitar, same idea. Pretty much with Adamant Nature, I would just go, because you have Tailwind, I would just go right here, 180, a lot of speed, but like 104 would just outspeed an opposing Iron Bundle, right? Which is important because then you can just go for like potential Rock Slides and then just kill them, or even like a Low Kick, for example. And then you could either, once again, just go right here to the second bump with 124 attack investment, or you can go almost here to 198 and then just have like an even number in your Assault Vest, just to optimize it, and then just a little bit of HP, something like this, where you have this much, a little bit of HP, but more attack. Or you can just go right here and then just go a little bit more right here, right? Something like this. Okay, and then the Gholdengo, again, we'll just use like the same Gholdengo spread that we've always been using, which is basically something like this. You outspeed Dragon Ball under Tailwind. You're at the first bump here in terms of special attack investment, right? So the stat went up by 2 points instead of 1. You have a lot of bulk here for the Life Orb optimization. You always want to end at a 9 every time you have a Life Orb, so this way you can undercut the threshold value. Again, if you don't understand what that means, comment in the video section. I will explain it fully. I'm just going through like a quick EV spread rundown here. And this defense investment, if you put it in the damage calculator, will survive the Adamant 252, King Gambit, Kowtow Cleave, and then you just dump the rest in special defense like this, right? And then the Talonflame, pretty much again with the Jolly set, you know, you can just go max speed Talonflame, and then just 1 point in everything in attack, defense, and special defense, and then just pretty much max your HP almost. You know, you just want to be a bulky bird that can stay on the field for at least more than one turn. The Amoonguss will just again use the same exact spread that we've been using for most of the format, and that this damage calc is meant to survive the Roaring Moon acrobatics even when it terraflies. The Jolly Roaring Moon, 236 HP investment. So this way you get 219 to optimize your regenerator recovery. Then 196 defense is the calc that helps you survive the Roaring Moon acrobatics, and then 76 special defense is just leftover EVs. The bundle over here is just straight 252, 252. Nothing else needs to be said, and this is pretty much it, right? So something like this could do relatively okay, like on ladder, and maybe even like a turret. Like you could just almost imagine Great Tusk in the slot, right? And then just have like something else, maybe even, but like even this, go Talonflame, Gholdengo, Great Tusk. All right, that's a core. Right? Why can't Talonflame, Gholdengo, Garchomp work? And then you could just do like this, for example. So, yeah, it just makes a lot of sense. Like I'm on board with Garchomp on Series 2. I think it should be tested a little bit more. I think the sheer bulk that it has, along with, you know, the fact that you're a little bit faster than a lot of some of these meta Pokemon is important, right? So yeah, that's all I wanted to say now for Garchomp. You know, I just wanted to spotlight it a little bit, and you know, and just say that it should still be used in Series 2. It can still do well, even though there is still Great Tusk running around. I think people should consider our Garchomp a little bit. All right, but yeah, that's it for now. Again, if you want to build teams like this relatively quickly in a Discord call with me, again, that's a tier 3 sub to the channel, so definitely consider that. You know, it's in the video description, it's in the comment section, it's also in the video itself. Every video has a join button, so if you are trying to go to regional, if you need a team for ladder play, or if you just need a team for some online tournament, and you want to build a team, definitely consider coaching with me, and you know, we'll book a session, and then just message me on Discord once you've done it, and then we go from there. All right, that'll be it for now. Peace out, everyone, and have a good night.